Hello and welcome back to another Monster Monday, a series where I draw a creature from D&D and I talk about its lore and its history and what it's like to fight in-game as well. Now traditionally what I do with these videos is that I take one of your suggestions for a monster that you'd like to see me draw and talk about and hear the lore of, whatever, and then I draw my interpretation of it. And I do that every single Monday. The way that I pick which ones of your suggestions to do is that I hand a list of every single monster that you leave down in the comment section. So, by the way, if there is a monster you'd like to see me draw, make sure to leave that down there during this video and I'll definitely get around to it at some point. But I take all of those suggestions and then I hand them to my patrons over on Patreon, who then get to vote on their top 4, whichever creatures they like the sound of the most, they then vote on, and I pick those top 4 and then I draw them that month. However, with 4 Mondays already having passed, and this 5th Monday in the month being something of an anomaly, whenever this kind of thing happens, I like to have a little bit more of a play with the rules, and either I introduce something that I've homebrewed, a monster that I'm really eager to do, or something like that. And to break the kind of mold, break this kind of system, I've decided to indeed go with something homebrew, but it's not something that I've homebrewed. A little while ago, I don't know if you'll remember, a dad called Nicholas Brown messaged me and said that his son has been drawing along with all of my videos and asked me very politely if I could give his son a shout out on my videos, which was very, very sweet, which I did. But I also sent a message back to Nicholas saying that if his son, Wesley Oliver Brown, ever came up with a monster of his own design, I'd be very, very interested to create some stats for it and also make a Monster Monday video on it, because creativity at such an early age is something that needs to be encouraged, because Wesley Oliver Brown seems like he's got creativity in spades. So unbeknownst to Wesley, his dad sent me through one of his drawings for one of his own homebrew creations, which I'm going to have a go at drawing myself. So without further ado, I hope you will enjoy this video on Wesley Oliver Brown's creation of the Owlbearholder. Let's get started with today's video. So the Owlbearholder is, as I may have mentioned before, the creation of Wesley Oliver Brown, which was sent to me as a bit of a surprise by Wesley's dad. A fusion of Owlbears and Beholders. Now Wesley didn't actually provide the name here, but I took a liberty and sort of fused those two names together to create this beast. But you should be able to see Wesley's beautiful artwork on screen, which I'm using for reference as I draw my own interpretation of this creature. Now, if at any time you'd like to use one of these creatures in your own campaign, I've gone ahead and I've made a stat block and a sort of monster manual page entry over on the home brewery through naturalcrit.com, which I'll leave a link to down in my description box. It's also available on the homebrew section of my own website, but yeah, I'll make sure to leave a little link to that somewhere in my description box if you'd like to use one of these creatures yourself. Aside from the wonderful concept of a fusion of an owlbear and a beholder, which is absolutely terrifying by the way, Wesley's dad told me that according to their creator, these creatures are blue, green, and have the odd flash of orange here and there, and that they deal lightning damage. So with that to work on, I embarked on creating this creature. Now way back in the annals of the Arcane Forge, I did actually make videos on both the Owlbear and the Beholder. I think the Beholder video was actually my first ever D&D Monster Monday video, and I'm pretty sure the Owlbear might have been my second or third, something like that. It was early on anyway, so understandably you may not have got round to watching those videos. But thankfully I'd done a decent amount of research on them way back in the past in order to come up with a reason why this creature might exist. So I think what I'll do is, while I draw my interpretation of Wesley's creation here, I'll read to you what I came up with for how these creatures exist, how they might operate, and what their stats will do. So you can follow along if you click the link in my description box and read this along, but I'll try and explain my ideas as well. Dreamed into existence by a beholder, jealous of the physical might of the owlbear, these predatory floating hunters are feared by their creators and by adventurers who dwell too long in a beholder's lair deep in a haunting forest. The confusing shape of an owlbearholder often causes those who look upon them for the first time to lower their guard in bemusement, but this is almost always a mistake. When beholders dream, their visions become reality. This is how new beholders claw their way into our existence. But occasionally, when a beholder dreams in a densely wooded location, the sounds of the forest will press in on their dreams and cause them to have visions of creatures that live there. Naturally paranoid, these dreams quickly turn into nightmares of being hunted and chased. Beholders deem all other creatures weaker and lesser than themselves. So to truly frighten a beholder, its nightmares contort these creatures into more potent and, obviously, beholder-like forms, which pose more of an instinctive threat to their existence, and thus a spherical owlbear that shoots rays from its eyes can be produced. Why would a beholder fear a creature that can't even shoot lasers from its eyes? The dreams that produce owlbearholders are often terrifying nightmares that cause the aberration to awaken in a cold sweat. These dreams are often most vivid during thunderstorms, as the boundaries between realities flare wildly with the influx of electrical energy striking the ground. The sound of this thunder warps the beholder's dreams and sees these nightmarish visions becoming infused with electrical energy when they are born. Now, owlbearholders are a fusion of both owlbears and beholders, and as a result are not necessarily evil. They are aberrations, as they are spawned in the same way as the conventional beholder, but behave like their owlbear inspiration, and are therefore not inherently violent. Their fused form comes with significant increase in their intelligence, because what does a beholder value more than intelligence? But these creatures cannot talk. They are capable of understanding the languages of their creator, but will generally respond to questions posed to them in a mixture of both hoots and growls. Their increased intelligence is also influenced by the behavior of beholders. Beholders cannot imagine other creatures being any less terrified or hostile to outside creatures than they are. So as a result, owlbearholders, although less paranoid, are generally suspicious of creatures trying to get too close to them. So what does that look like in-game? Well, this was a tough creature to put together, I'll be honest with you. Because of the mixed challenge ratings of owlbears and beholders, owlbears are obviously significantly less strong than beholders, which are kind of party-destroying threats. What I wanted to do was meet a sort of middle ground, a halfway between the two, because this is what I imagine a beholder would believe a very threatening owlbear would be like, not an actual owlbear. So it is part owlbear and beholder, and basically what I did was find an average between all values between the two sort of creatures, and then place those as the values that appear unless something else made more sense. I know that sounds really confusing, but allow me to elaborate. So finding a comfortable average between two creatures, I said that they had an armor class of 15 and 13d10 plus 52 hit points. As creatures with two large slashing arms and wings, Wesley's dad was very specific that they fly with their wings, I gave it a flying speed of 30 feet, because that's how fast a beholder can float around, and I feel like that's kind of what a beholder would fear, this kind of villain that catches up to you, Darth Vader style, rather than outrunning you, a looming presence. They have strength 20, dexterity 15, and con 18, all befitting the owlbear, although it is more intelligent, more wise, and more charismatic than an owlbear, but not quite reaching a beholder's status, with intelligence 7, wisdom 7, and charisma 9. Just like a beholder, as a sphere, it's immune to being prone, and both creatures had some version of dark vision, so I gave it 60-foot dark vision. I put it at a challenge rating 7, which was a nice mid-ground between the two different creatures, but obviously if you're using this creature in-game and you're using these particular stats, and you feel like that doesn't make sense to you, as with all homebrew, this is up to DM interpretation. But I feel like a challenge rating 7 fits this creature quite well so far. Now both owlbears and beholders have some version of perception-based abilities. In an owlbear it comes from them being exceptional hunters, from beholders it comes from their general paranoia and always having like at least one of their eyes active to sort of scan like a periscope in case they're going to be attacked by someone. So it only seemed right to lean more on the owlbear side of things and say that this creature has a keen sense of sight and smell, which grants it advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on sight or smell. Just like an owlbear, I gave this creature a multi-attack, which comes in the form of both a beak and a claw attack, but I was told very early on that Wesley's creation deals lightning damage. So I made sure that the beak deals 2d6 plus 5 piercing damage, with a potential additional d6 lightning damage on top of that should someone fail a constitution saving throw, because I didn't want that to be utterly guaranteed every single time. The slightly less deadly claw attack, which only deals 1d10 plus 5 slashing damage, I made sure to guarantee deals an extra 1d6 lightning damage, so there's no need to make a constitution saving throw that time. Essentially, having 3d6 plus 5 damage from a beak attack seemed a little bit too strong, 4 damage every single turn. So I wanted to make sure that a Constitution saving throw was involved to maybe ground yourself or something like that to avoid taking so much lightning damage. And as per its inspiration with the Beholder, I wanted to make sure that it shot lightning or energy of some kind out of its eyes. But as not a fully fledged Beholder, as only a challenge rating 7 creature, I didn't want to sort of copy and paste a Beholder's damaging abilities. And being inspired by Owlbears, I wanted to mostly rely on its close combat capabilities, especially with that wonderful Strength 20. So I figured looking up a dragon's sort of Dragon Breath ability, which has a recharge timer, which requires you to roll a d6 at the start of your turn, and on a 5 or a 6 this ability recharges. I thought that would give DMs an incentive to attack physically, but also use this lightning beam ability whenever they could, because naturally it's going to be quite strong, and I didn't want to take away from the physical aspects of this creature. So in a move called Oculightning, Eye Lightning in other words, I said that the Owlbearholder fires a 30-foot arc of pure electrical energy from its eyes, which is 5 feet wide. Each creature in that line must make a dexterity saving throw, taking 12d6 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. So obviously every time that recharges, you're going to want to use that. But I felt that means that it would be just infrequent enough to cause players and DMs to be on their guard, but not reliant on this long-range attack. So yeah, this creature was really fun to draw. So thank you, Nicholas, for sending me Wesley's wonderful artwork and letting me draw my own interpretation of this creature. I had so much fun doing it. So I hope Wesley's creation is something that you can add to your D&D campaign and share among your friends as well. I tried to stick to the colour scheme of blue, green and orange, which I think made a really interesting creature. And overall, I really loved making this creature. So thank you so much for joining me for another episode. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a little thumbs up down below, perhaps favourite this video, and share it so that other people can see Wesley's creation and hopefully use this creature in their games. Also, everything that you can do like that really helps this channel to grow and helps to let YouTube know if I'm doing a good job. I'd really appreciate you subscribing as well, because I make videos every single Monday, and sometimes on other days as well, usually on a Friday, if my schedule allows. And I noticed the other day that only half of my viewers are actually subscribed to the channel, but I'd really like to try and grow the channel this year. I was quite preoccupied last year planning my wedding, so I perhaps didn't spend as much time on it as I should have done. But I dream one day of hitting the 100,000 subscriber mark, which is a long way off. But hopefully with your help, we can get it done and grow this community little by little. And for no other reason, that would just make me really happy. So thank you if you choose to help me in that way. Otherwise, if you have a suggestion for a monster that you'd like to see, make sure to leave that in the comment section below, and hopefully I'll get round to that. I can add that to my to-draw list and let my patrons vote for that over on Patreon. Otherwise, until next time, always keep an eye out on sleeping beholders, because you never know what they might conjure into this existence, and happy monster hunting.